Welcome to the Flosstyle Bolster Beanbag Sew Along Day 3. Today we're going to focus on the optional handle. We're going to be installing it to the outer fabric where the back seam zip is. We're going to focus on sewing our seat pieces together, the sofa and the moon version. We're going to be attaching our seat to the top of our sidewall piece, and we're going to be attaching the round bottom pattern piece that we cut out, pattern piece 2, to the bottom of the sidewall piece. We're going to be doing this to the outer fabric as well as the lining the inner fabric. Stay tuned. The optional handle for your bolster beanbag. This is the wrong side of the fabric. You're going to start with the two short ends. You're going to fold in 1/4 inch and you're going to press on both sides. Once you've done that and the sides are pressed in, you're going to fold in half, wrong sides together, press. You're going to open up, still with the shorter sides pressed inward, and then you will fold together and press. Once you have completed your handle, we're now going to attach it to the outer back seam where the zip is of your bolster beanbag. So you're going to measure 2 inches down from the top of the seam. These extra pieces of seam allowance you can remove. So 2 inches down from the seam, and then you're going to measure 1 inch away from the seam allowance. On the footrest version, for the bigger versions, you can do 2 inches away. Just make sure that your handle is going to be above where the zipper pull is, because it can get tricky to move the zipper pull back and forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin 2 inches down, 1 inch away. And it's going to make a bit of a bow, and that's what we want. Alright, now that our handle is pinned, I'm going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew an X box on the handle to securely fasten it to our beanbag. I'll show you how. Let me show you how to stitch the handle onto the beanbag. You're going to start at the top right corner of your handle on the edge where the seam, the stitch line is that you previously sewed. You're going to stitch a couple of stitches forward, back stitch, follow the stitches that you have on the handle previously. You're going to lift your presser foot with the needle down, pivot, and you're going to stitch 4 to 5 stitches following the stitch line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 5. Okay, needle in the down position. Instead of rotating to the right now, I'm going to go back to my original position press the foot down, and I'm going to back stitch. This makes it easier when it comes to very sturdy fabrics. Then you don't have to fiddle with all the material being here in the bulk of the machine. Okay, with your needle down, pivot again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, needle down. You're going to lift your presser foot again, pivot, that you are diagonally opposite the other corner, and now we're going to stitch across, back stitching toward that corner to make the X. Alright, that looks good. Then I'm going to go forward on my previous stitching, makes it extra secure. Needle down, press the foot up, and you're going to turn into the opposite diagonal corner, and you're going to back stitch and forward stitch to lock in place. There we go, there's your X to secure it onto your bolster beanbag, and you're going to repeat this with the other side. At this stage you should be complete with your side wall piece, the back seam zip, as well as your lining side wall piece, the front seam zip. I want you to get either a pair of snips or some pins, and we are going to quarter and mark these pattern pieces. On the bottom round piece for the lining, it is still quartered. I'm going to take my snips and notch the quarter marks, so that when it comes to pinning it will be easier. You will do the same with the side wall piece. Take your piece together. This will be the halfway points, so then we can match them together this way as best as you can, because there is a bit of a curve, and you can pin or snip. I'm going to snip, pin or snip. I'm choosing to snip, and you'll do the same for the bottom as well. This is a bit less clear on the back seam, as I don't have a seam for the foot press size, so I will make a snip. I will then line it up with the zip. There's my snip, there's my zip seam. So my quarter point is there. Alright, with regards to the top of our bolster beanbag, the seat, depending on the style you chose, this is the sofa version. The croissant version is rounder and has a rounded seat, and then we have the generic round top and bottom version. With the additional versions, the moon and sofa, you're going to need to quarter your pieces, halve your pieces, sorry, so that you can match the seams a bit better. So what I do is I just take the pattern piece, fold it over, and then I will half and notch it. The rounded edge goes with the rounded edge of the seat, not at the bottom. The straight edge is at the bottom. I'm going to do the same for the top seat as well. Fold in half, and I'm going to notch. So our next step is we are going to pin this pattern piece together. We are going to sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. As you sew around the curved edges, you may need to clip into your seam allowance so that it will fit the curve. And then after you have stitched your seam allowances, I want you to overlock or zigzag the edges, as this is the outer fabric, so it's going to be interchangeable. We can wash it, and then it's not going to get too much wear and tear in the washing machine. Right, so I've sewn around my bottom seat and I've overlocked the edges so they're nice and neat. Now we're going to attach our top seats for the outer and the inner to the top of the side wall pattern piece number 1. So I have quartered the top seat, notched it. We're going to start with the top of the seat, right side facing up. You're going to take the top of the back seam and you're going to pin in place, like so. And you're going to pin your other quarter points. So I have pinned the quarter points, matching the notches. Now what you're going to do is you're going to work on a quarter at a time. Pull your fabric open where it would look somewhat in the halfway point, and pin. Then you'll do the same for these sections, halfway point, pin these smaller sections, halfway point, pin. And you're going to work your way around the beanbag top. You may need to snip into the seam allowance a bit, especially if you're working in thicker fabrics. Once you've pinned all the way around, you're going to keep the seat on the bottom while you're sewing. You're not going to flip it over. This way you're going to make sure that it's going to stay flat and you're going to have no tucks in the top seat. You're going to stitch this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance or 1.25 centimeters, and then you're going to overlock the edges or zigzag stitch the edges. You're going to repeat the same step for your outer fabric.